According to Fijian legend, the great Latuna Soba Soba led his people across the seas to the new land of Fiji from Southeast Asia. Here, the Melanesians and Polynesians mixed to create a highly developed society way before the arrival of the Europeans. It is said that the Fijians reached their island as early as 2,000 years before the birth of Christ. The Europeans found when they arrived in 1643 that the Fijians had no written language and relied on memory for their history, and have no record of anything that happened. Cannibalism was practiced in Fiji among the indigenous, but it quickly disappeared as the missionaries started to gain influence. One of their chiefs, Ratusero Kakuba, accepted Christianity. The rest of the country soon followed in his footsteps. In 1875, there was an outbreak of measles that left a third of the Fijian population dead, which resulted in a group of immigrants coming from India to Fiji, which is why a vast population of the Fijian community is Hindu. On October 10, 1970, Fiji attained independence, which ended 96 years under the British rule.
Fijian culture is very relaxed and easygoing. It has cultural traditions of Oceanic, European, South Asian, and East Asian origins. It's composed of a social structure with gentry and commoners, where chiefs dominate the national polity. They're distinguished by refined manners, dignity, honor, and self-confidence, and they preside over the villages, clans, and tribes. Fiji is known as one of the friendliest places in the world. Some unique facts about Fijian culture include that every New Year's Eve, Fiji women play Veka Kimoli, otherwise known as Kick the Orange. It's a team game that requires the winning team to give gifts of new garments to the losing team members. In addition, one of many Fijian superstitions says that coconuts have eyes and watch for certain people on which to fall from their trees. Fijian culture is a gift-giving culture. Gifting large quantities of food for a community ceremony is a long-standing tradition. Food gifts such as raw or cooked oxen, whole pigs, and turtles are usually accompanied by non-food gifts like bark cloth, kava, or valuable whale's teeth. Feasting and gifting is primarily associated with religious festivals and marriages. In Fiji, it is customary to welcome anyone, even a foreign stranger, into the home to share a meal. A mat or cloth is placed on the floor of the home, and several dishes, along with staple foods, are placed in the center. Families are usually large, and there are often several guests at a meal. Sitting cross-legged in a circle, you traditionally eat with your hands and save a quick prayer of thanks. Most meals lack formality and are filled with discussion and laughter. As with most island cuisines, Fijian food is heavily influenced by and dependent on what the ocean has to offer. Along with pololo, traditional dishes include a vast variety of seaweed, shellfish, octopus, sea cucumber, sea urchin, turtle, shark, and fish. Kava, also known by its Fijian name Yakona, is an indigenous plant that has been long used by Pacific Island cultures for its pleasant relaxation effect. In Fiji, kava's cultural significance is deeply rooted in the history of the location. For example, although it is usually used today in social gatherings as a form of recreation and convention, traditionally, the drink was only used to serve higher-ranking chiefs and elders of the tribes in order to signify the welcoming of honored guests. And because it was difficult for tribes to travel from one location to the other in Fiji, kava was used scarcely, and it gained association of specialness among the citizens of Fiji. Also, at other points in the history of Fiji, the kava drink was used either in preparation for an important religious event or at the completion of that event. According to literature, this was done in order to validate such events to the eyes of the local gods so that they may bless marriage status, births, and deaths.
His name is the Great Serpent, the Supreme God. He is believed to be the creator of the Fiji Islands and all men related to the islands. He is the one that judges the souls when they die and decides where they move on to in the afterlife. Fijians have a hierarchy of gods named the Kalu. It is almost impossible to add up the probable number of gods of Fiji, because disembodied spirits are called gods as well. But the natives make a distinction between those who were gods originally and those who were only deified spirits. They call Kaluvu the former gods, or root gods, and the latter are called Kalu Yellow, which are deified mortals. Some gods were universally known throughout Fiji, Others were local gods of large or small territories, while some were simply gods of particular families. Before the 19th century, Fijian religion included various forms of animism, which is the belief that animals, plants, and inanimate objects possess a spiritual essence, and divination, which is the attempt to gain insight into a question or situation by the way of a standardized process or ritual. There was no shift until they came into contact with European Christian missionaries. After the cession of Fiji to Great Britain, Christianity became the dominant faith. Another prominent religion is Hinduism. Fiji is a multiracial, multicultural nation. The population of Fiji is made up of significant numbers of followers of all major religions. People will find Christian churches, mosques, and Hindu temples throughout the country. Politics of Fiji take place within the framework of a parliamentary representative democratic republic. Fiji has a multi-party system with the Prime Minister of Fiji as head of government. The executive power is exercised by the government. Legislative power is vested in both the government and the Parliament of Fiji. The Constitution of the Republic of Fiji has three arms of government: Parliament, Executive, and Judiciary. The Parliament branch is the legislative branch, which makes the laws, represents the community, and investigates issues of importance. Parliament has 50 members, of which most belong to the political party, while there are some independent members. The executive branch, which is also the administrative arm, puts into operation laws passed by Parliament and administers programs delivered by the government. The government is mainly made up of Parliament. The leader of the political party with majority of members becomes Prime Minister, which is the head of the government. The Cabinet is a decision-making body of the government and is chaired by the Prime Minister. Lastly is the Judiciary branch, which is the legal branch, interpreting and enforcing laws. The Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, the High Court, the Magistrates' Court, and other courts and tribunals that may be created by law are a part of this branch. The courts are independent of Parliament and the executive.
Fiji has 3 official languages under the 1997 Constitution: English, Fijian, and Hindi. Fijian is spoken either as a first or second language by the indigenous Fijians. Fijians of Indian descent mainly speak a local variant of Hindi, known as Fiji Hindi. The British people of the early colonies in Fiji speak English. Fijian and Fiji Hindi are only spoken on the Fiji Islands, whereas English is spoken all around the world. Some important phrases are bula, which means hello or welcome; pakavatiko, which means how are you; nayaku o, which means my name is; vinakavakalivu, which means thank you; and ao damoni iko, which means I love you. The Sigatoka Sand Dunes is the first national park of Fiji. You can go here to explore Fiji's ecosystem by taking a walkthrough tour. It is a good place to go to for those who are interested in learning about Fiji's culture, history, and wilderness. The Sigatoka Sand Dunes have artifacts such as old pottery shards and stone tools. You can also see their old burial sites. These give insight on Fijian lifestyle. Levuka is a small town in Fiji that was named as a World Heritage Site in 2013. It is a major site because visitors can go here to get a real taste of the locals' lives and culture in Fiji. Visit this historical town to see colonial buildings, workers' cottages, the shell button factory, and their old parliament house. People can go here to experience the way that Fijians live. Mount Tomanivi is another major site. If you're one for the wilderness, you can go hiking at this mountain. Mount Tomanivi is also an extinct volcano, and it is known as the highest mountain in Fiji. You can take the hike with a tour guide who will tell you cultural stories about how they believe the islands came to be while on your way up. The Sri Siva Subramania Temple is another major site in Fiji. Here you can learn about some of the religion in Fiji by visiting this Hindu temple. This temple gives insight to their cultural beliefs and shows how Fiji practices multiple religions, and how they share their own culture with others because they integrate this Indian religion into their own lifestyle. Another major site is the Fiji Museum. Visitors can come here to see the archaeological artifacts and learn about Fiji's culture. The workers at the museum educate tourists on how the native Fijians used to live and what type of creatures used to exist on the islands with them. The Fiji Museum is important because it keeps the origins of the Fijian culture alive by sharing their old stories.